So before we look at how we can actually split long posts into shorter posts, let me just give you 3 reasons why it's such a good idea. The first one is that it gives you more advertising space. If you imagine that you may be having some advertising in the right sidebar, for example, then if you have one long article, then that advert is only appearing once as they read through the content. If you split up the long article into 3 or 4 smaller posts, then you're going to have that advert displayed to them 3 or 4 times as they read the content. So that's the first reason, you get more advertising space. The second reason is a Google SEO reason, and in that is that you get an increase in the page views, because if somebody's going to read the whole article, they're going to be reading 3 or 4 pages, which means your Google Analytics is going to say higher page views, and that's a great thing for SEO, as is the last point of lower bounce rate. A bounce is when somebody arrives at your site and then bounces straight back to Google. Now, if they are reading an article that has been split into 3 or 4 pieces, then they're not going to bounce straight back. They'll go from the first page to the second page, and even if they leave then, it's not a bounce because they were actually on 2 pages of your site. So those are the reasons why it's a good idea. Let's have a look at how you can do it, and it's actually very easy in most well-written themes for WordPress. Let me take you over to one of my websites, and this particular article is on bee pollen, and you can see from the size of the little tab here in the scroll bar that it's actually a very long article. If I scroll down through the article, it's around about 6,000 words in length, which is far too long for a single page. We could easily split this into 7, 8 or 9 pages. So let's have a look at how we can do that. And I'm over in my dashboard now, and I'm going to load up the article. Okay, so you can see it now in the editor. Very long post. And what we can do is a feature that's actually built into WordPress itself, although your theme has to be able to be written for this particular feature. If you find that you're putting this tag into your post and it's not splitting onto other pages, then you need to check with your theme author and find out why. Probably what they'll have to do, or what you'll have to do, is edit the single.php file and add in some little bit of code there so that it's actually checking for this next page tag. But this is the tag we're going to add. So I'm going to just copy it. It's a less than, exclamation mark, dash dash, next page, dash dash, greater than sign. And all I need to do is go down my article, but before we start scrolling down the article, the first thing you need to know is you need to go onto the text tab. If you do it on the visual tab, it won't work. And then we go down to find the areas where we want to insert the tags. So I'm going to insert one here. Okay, so we've got this much as the first page. And we'll scroll down a little bit further until I find another headline. Let's try this one. Okay, and then I'm going to scroll down a bit more. And we've got another page insert there. And I'm inserting these right before headlines, because those make natural breaks. And we're almost at the bottom. Is it organic? I can always go back in here and change these. I'm just doing this to show you for now. Okay, that's plenty. Let's go now and just update. Okay, here we are on the visual tab, and if I scroll down, you can see that wherever I inserted the next page tag, we've got a page break. There's another one there. Another one there, and so on. Okay, so let's go back to the web page and we'll refresh it. One thing to be aware here is if you're using some sort of cache controller plugin like W3 Total Cache, or you're using a CDN like Cloudflare, then you might have to refresh it a few times or purge from cache and load. But as you can see from the size of this tab in the scroll bar, we've now got a much shorter page, and if I scroll down, you can see at the bottom we've got page numbers, and we've actually split this post now into 7 different pages. And I can go through each page in turn. One thing that I would want to change with this is you can see that the actual page we're on is much smaller. This theme that I'm using is called Customizer Pro, and I'm going to just edit that now so you can see how to use it, because I know a lot of readers of my blog are switched over to Customizer Pro because it is such a good theme. So I'll show you how to change that. Okay, we're in the Customize screen. I want to go down to Advanced Options and Custom CSS, because we're going to put some custom CSS in there. And the next thing I need to do is just go over to the page that I'm interested in editing, or at least editing the CSS for it. I need to go onto one of the Pollen article pages, so I can, let me just do this again. Through the customizer, this is always a little bit slow. I need to go onto one of the Pollen pages so I can actually inspect the code that is being used for those numbers, and then I can add the CSS to fix it. Okay, so I'm going to go down, I'm going to press F12, I'm in Google Chrome, and that brings up this inspector, and I can click on the little button there and then click onto one of these numbers, and I can see that this is part of a class called Pagination. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a full stop. Whoops, I've just broken up another class. Full stop and Pagination, and then open curly brackets, close curly brackets, and then inside that I'm going to put font size, and then I can put whatever font size I want, and it should be the same sort of font size as I've got here, and I think it's around about 24 pixels. And you see, as I've done that, the number has now changed to the correct size. The other thing I could do, of course, is change the color of that, let's say to red, so that the page that I'm on, let's scroll to the next page and you can see how this works. The page that I'm on is now highlighted in red. Let's just scroll to the bottom, and you can see page 2 now is highlighted in red. I could possibly make that a little bit bigger because it still looks a tiny bit too small. Let's try 26. That looks too big. 25, that looks fine. So then I can just save and publish the changes, go over, and let's refresh this page now, and we should see that that number 2 is not only red, but it's also the correct size. Okay, so that's how you add pagination to long posts to split them up into smaller posts.